Hello fellow cyborgs and welcome to my wrap-up of Thrillerathon. I was planning on reading 4 books for Thrillerathon and I succeeded and I read those 4 books and let me tell you about them. So Husk was the horror novella that I read for the shortest book on my physical TBR. This is by Rachel Autumn Deering. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The first half of it I really loved, but I felt that the horror elements of the plot were not as developed as I was hoping. I also found the ending to be far too rushed and ambiguous. The tension wasn't really there toward the end, and I wish that more time had been spent developing that ending tension and the horror lore in this, rather than on the couple of sex scenes that were in here. So I enjoyed it, but the beginning, which talked about Halloween and grief, was just so much more promising than what the rest delivered. I also listened to the audiobook of The Trauma Cleaner, One Woman's Extraordinary Life in the Business of Death, Decay, and Disaster by Sarah Krasnostein. I kept saying that it was about Sarah, but this is actually about Sandra. Sarah's writing this biography of Sandra, who is a trans woman and also owns her own trauma cleaning business in Australia. I believe this fulfilled the most recently hauled thriller. This was really good. I enjoyed the audiobook a lot, especially with all the Australian accents that I probably wouldn't have been able to remember in my mind if I had just read it personally. And Sandra's life was absolutely fascinating. I really loved how this delved psychologically not only into Sandra but also into her clients. Each chapter starts out with a different description of a client and their home that Sandra is cleaning, and hearing about why they live the way that they live and how a lot of it stems from trauma. This does depict a rape scene, so if you're super triggered by that, I wouldn't read this because it is pretty detailed, but I wasn't overly feeling yucky about it, so I still really enjoyed this a lot, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is Please Look After Mom by Kyung Suk Shin, translated by Chi Young Kim. This is a story about a elderly mother who goes missing, and her adult children are trying to find her, but also reevaluating their idea of her identity and who she was as a person. This was really great. This was almost a 5-star read. I really enjoyed how this was written in second person. It really brings you into the immediacy of the emotions and panic of losing a parent. I also loved how this went into identity and how for their mom, her number one identity for them is being a mother, but that's not the be-all end-all of her life. I love how there are 5 parts in this book and we shift between perspectives, seeing different family members' perspectives on it. We get a more well-rounded viewpoint of mom and also on their different relationships with her. I really enjoyed this mystery and especially the character building. It was also written and or translated beautifully, and I wish that this author had more works translated into English. This was really, really impressive. This was fulfilling the Read a New Author to Me challenge, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And then we have Let Me Tell You by Shirley Jackson. This is a collection of her short fictions, essays, reviews, and this was also really great. I think this book definitely solidified Shirley Jackson as one of my favorite authors. I may not love every single book that I've read by Shirley Jackson, but I know what I'm going to get with Shirley Jackson, and the feeling I get when I read Shirley Jackson is the same feeling I get when I look at 1950s vintage outfits or accessories. It's just so comforting, and there's a bit of nostalgia, and if only, mind you, Shirley Jackson's stuff can get really dark, but I still just imagine this slightly off-center 1950s house living, and it's just awesome. I was not expecting very much from this collection. I'd heard that it was kind of not the best collection of her short stories, but I felt like a lot of these stories really made an impact on me. The very first one is Paranoia, and it's about this man who's trying to get home, and this man in this tan suit keeps just getting in his way and following him, and I really felt claustrophobic about it. There was also this other one, Mrs. Spencer and the Oberons, where these Oberons have moved into town and they keep referring to Mrs. Spencer to other people, but she doesn't actually know them. But I especially loved her essays, not the ones about her family, but there's one about real me or one about children's fiction, and I just got such a giggle out of them. She is a perfect blend of a occult witch, but then also a housewife, and Shirley Jackson is just delightful. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. So Thrillerathon was a huge success for me. I did cheat and started reading Let Me Tell You and The Trauma Cleaner before the Thrillerathon happened. And even though that's cheating, I actually loved that so much more. I wasn't as rushed to finish like 4 complete things in the week. Or start and finish 4 things. I just finished 4 things and I actually got to finish all of them as opposed to just start on them. It was really relaxed with my reading, and yet I was reading more and it was really great. So I will probably be participating in Thrillerathon when it next rolls around. If you participated in Thrillerathon, let me know how it went for you. Thank you to all of the hosts of Thrillerathon. It was a lot of fun, and until next time, read some thriller horror mysteries and continue to be lovely.